Alright, so one of the other issues we got is because this is built on a hillside, our door is not square. You can see this side over here is at a slant, the other side's at a slant, and so we're going to have to figure out how to make a door there that's not square. You can't go to the hardware store and buy a door that's in the shape of a diamond. So at any rate, we'll show you how we do that. Alright, so I got this thing called an angleizer. It's just basically a ruler with a pivot point in the middle of it, and it's got a little digital readout too. But essentially, I'm just going to put this in here. You can see it's not at 90 degrees. It's at 85 degrees. At any rate, I can lock this, and then I will use this to cut the edge of a 2x4, which is going to get hinged on this board, and then that will give me my angle for my not square door. Alright, so on the bottom, since this is going across the ground and it's not perfectly flat like the board above it is, across the header of my doorway, I'm just going to lay a board down, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to measure this angle so that I can figure out what the angle is on my bottom of this this upright board here. Lock that down, and you can see on this one it's just a couple of degrees off. Not too bad. Now let me explain why this bottom angle is pretty much 90 degrees. The reason is this is slanted this way and the hill goes this way, and so they're kind of at the same angle from each other, so that they're perpendicular. This slant is perpendicular to the slant of the hill, and so it ends up being pretty close to 90 degrees. Alright, so we got our board here cut. I got a little piece of gusset material, their plywood, underneath that to give us some clearance on the bottom. And I got just a little bit of clearance here on top. And we position this where we want it at the level. And we put the level on it, make sure it's level, and clamped it in place. And then we're going to put our screws in here for our hinges. And then I'm going to cut this board over here, or this side of the door frame, and then we'll cut the bottoms, and then we're going to build this in place. That way we can kind of, if we built the door all crooked based off of what our measurements are and put it in place, it might not be 100%. So I'm just going to build it in place, and then that way I can adjust as I screw on. I'm going to put gussets on the side of this door frame, and then on the front we'll put Plexipanel material. So that's where we're at. Alright, so we got our upright for the door frame that's attached to the hinges. That's installed. We put this bottom board across here, and I attached a gusset on both sides of that. And on this side, so far I've just attached the gusset on the bottom. The reason for that is I've got this clamped up against the frame. And of course I don't want the door to be that tight. So what I did was I cut this board a little short, and then we're going to take and release this board from the, unclamp it from the frame, and then we're going to clamp it down here at the bottom to the gusset to where it's tight, and then that will give me a little bit of a gap between the door frame. Alright, so now we got the screws in there, and this will theoretically swing here. And so now all we got to do is make the top across here, gusset those in, and then we'll skin it with some of our poly sheeting. Alright, so we got our board that goes across the top cut, and you can see, hopefully you can see that, those are at angles. It's only about a 5-degree angle, but it's at an angle. And then we took some gusset material, some plywood, and we attached it to the two uprights. And so now all we got to do is put this in place, and then we'll clamp it in, and then put the screws in, and then that should finish our door frame. Alright, so we have our diagonally warped frame made. You want to go over and see if it will open. We have not tested it yet. That's all the further it opens.
Mm-hmm.
Keep pushing a little bit. There we go.
I'll just have to pound the little hills out.
Okay, so it opens. Now we will get a sledgehammer. You probably can't tell it from the video, but this ground here is ground, and so it's a little wavy. So we'll get the sledgehammer and we'll just whack these high spots a little bit. The ground's a little moist underneath there, so we'll whack those a little bit with the sledgehammer, get those hills smoothed out a little bit, and this door should open just fine. So now all we got to do is put some poly sheeting on it, polycarbonate wavy stuff, and then we'll put a latch. Alright, so our crooked door is done, and then we just added a little handle here so we can pull this shut, and then there's a little latch here that we can latch that so it stays closed. And so that finishes our crooked door.